Welcome to the Make-at-Home Pottery Club. I'm Fiona Booy. This video is part of my Christmas winter series where I'm going to show you a few things like how to make Christmas decorations and gift tags, how to make a Christmas gift, a nice little tea light holder, and a couple of make-it-at-home winter projects. So all you need to do is grab some clay, come and join me and make it at home. Today's video is about gifts, and a gift in particular is this little tea light here. So you can see I have a little tea light and a little pot. This one here is made out of air dry clay. This one is made out of real clay. It's been bisque fired, but it still needs to be glazed. What do you notice about it? They're not so narrow that I can't get my hands in. They've got holes to let the light out, and they've got texture on them. For today's project, you're going to need clay, you're going to need your paintbrush, your pointy stick, and some water, as normal. You also need to work on a mat. It's much better for rolling out clay when you actually have a mat to work on. Then you're also going to either need the template from my website or some pastry cutters from the kitchen and a bit of cardboard or paper to cut out your design. You'll also need something to get a pattern on the clay. I've used various bits of fabric. You might go and find some old material that's not used in the house, or you might want to find some stamps. This one over here was just a wooden stamp, two different wooden stamps that were stamped in. This one over here is this bit of fabric. I've just come back from the kitchen and I was about to eat one of these, and I suddenly realised that this is fantastic as well. So if you haven't got any material and your mum won't let you cut up the curtains, then you can always use one of these vegetable bags. So the first thing you need is to figure out what you're going to do. So if you are using pastry cutters, I find that small one, too small. The middle-sized one is good if you're using air dry clay. Whereas if you're going to use real clay, you should use the bigger one because it's going to shrink 10–15% in the kiln. Then what you need to do is get your cereal box or whatever it is and see how high you want it. Again, this one is going to be fine for air dry clay, but perhaps for real clay, you might want to make it a little higher, so when it shrinks, it's 10 or 15%. What you need to do is cut it out, and you can check its size by rolling it round. And if it's a little too big, that's okay. You don't want it to be a little bit too small. If you have your ball of clay, you want to remove a little bit for that, maybe a quarter of the ball, and have 3/4 there. So the way to break it off is to twist, and you're twisting off a small piece and you're left with a big piece. The small piece you're going to pat into a burger shape, get it round, get it flat, because you're going to roll it out and get it to that size. For this one, you're going to make it into a bit of a sausage shape before you roll it out. We have our rolling pin and we have our hamburger. Yum. And we roll this way. Now when you're rolling, you want to be able to roll, pick up, turn it round, and so what you're doing is you're spreading the clay evenly in all different directions. You want it to be nice and smooth and even. You don't want to make it too thin because then it's going to squish. Here I have rough flat burger. You can see it's probably 1/2 centimetre, 3 or 4 mils thick. And I'm now going to cut out my cookie. Yum. And squeeze it round, pushing it in nice and hard. And you can even see from the bottom that you've got a nice clean piece like that. And then I'm going to just break off the extras. Okay, these bits keep because you will need them. Then I've got my sausage and I've got my template. I'm going to roll my sausage this way. Pick it up. So you can keep comparing. Are you there? Are you there? That's better. And now we've got that, let's get our texture. So I think I'm going to make it with these delicious curtains. And I'm going to pop them down, smooth them, and again, get the roller out. This should be now nicely pressed in. What I quite like is actually ending my pattern a little bit ahead, so you've got some pattern pieces and some non-pattern pieces. Now I get my template, I take that off, and I've got my pointy stick, and I can now cut out. The top and the bottom you're wanting to cut straight. Well, at this stage I've left my edges uncut for the moment. Now you're going to find it might, depending on how wet your clay is, it might still stretch at the stage. And that is also okie dokies. Right, you want to get this out, and you're going to press it out very, very gently with your fingers. Very gently with your fingers. So, if they are far too wet, you can put it aside to dry for 20 minutes. So a very important technique that you need to learn when you are joining bits of clay together is the cross-hatching or hashtagging. And what you need to do is draw little hashtags everywhere where clay is going to meet, and then you use your paintbrush and get some water and really squish it together to make sure that it doesn't crack, so that it joins and doesn't fall apart later. Okay, so we're going to start with this little base, and we are going to draw all the way around, lots of hashtags. I'm going to draw straight lines going down and then straight lines going across. No, then I'm going the other way. So you can see I've done that. Then I'm going to do it on the reverse side of this, down the bottom and up the sides. I'm going to do it on the outside of one and the inside of the other. Right, then we need paintbrush. Boom, boom, boom. And we put the paintbrush all the way around. And put more water all the way around. Next up, we need to join them. So we have, that side's more beautiful. I think I'll have it down, and I'm going to have this side. So you start off in the middle, and we need to go squishity squish. So you're pushing really quite hard there to get that nicely joined. And you will find that your clay might have stretched while you've got it. So that's okay. I've got a much longer piece than I need, which is really much better than too short. Using your pointy stick, you can now cut. Now remember, when you cut your edges, I'll show you what I've got here. Okay, I'm going to cut one edge going this way and one edge going that way, so that they can then join quite nicely on that. All right, take a quick look. Oh, I'll try and do it so you can see. I'm going to cut this way. Boop. There we go. But I'm then going to do it this way. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. If you've made something that's quite deep, you might not be able to get your hands inside, so you can actually use a pen or something else to push inside while you push from the outside. So you need to make sure that your joins, again, have these really wonderful cross-hatching that you guys are getting so good at doing. That you've used water. And that you're going to squish them together very, very carefully, because I have seen so many beautiful things fall apart when they dry because they've not been joined together properly. And what you're going to do is look at the bottom now. So we've got a few little holes in there. You do need to push it together nice and tightly so that it all seals up, especially if it's going to go into the kiln, because any cracks that exist will open up in the kiln. Even if you're not in the kiln, going into the kiln, you definitely want to close all those holes so that it doesn't fall apart, right? You then want to neaten up the edges, and go back to that part that joined and just make sure from the inside and the outside it's looking nice and strong. Right, the next thing you want to do is on the inside, have a little look, okay? Where that edge is on the inside, again, there's a crack and a weakness. So we need to do some sausages, and we're going to put a sausage around the inside. What I find is easier is if you do one sausage this side and one sausage this side, or even 3 different sausages rather than one long one, because it tends to stick in the side and be silly. So you need to roll some sausages. They don't have to be thick. So although I've rolled one big sausage, I'm going to break it in 2. Of course, before you put your sausage in, you do need to do the hashtags. So I am doing, with my pointy stick, all the way around, I'm making those crosses, those hashtag marks everywhere. Like that, okay? And then with these guys, quite easy just to dip it into the water. Glooks. And then once you've got that, you can then press it in, okay? If you can reach with your fingers, reach with your fingers. Otherwise, you can use the end of the paintbrush to get into that little corner and make it all nice and strong and smooth. So that's sort of what you're doing, and then you need to tidy it up a bit more so that you can't see it. So once you've fixed the inside and fixed the bottom, now you want to fix the walls and the top. So let's see, has it sagged a little bit? Is it still round? So I'm just twirling it with my fingers to try and get it straight up. Because we've pushed the bottom, it might have gone out a bit, so I'm just straightening it up like that, twisting it round, getting it into an even shape. Also somewhere, I've lost the pattern, particularly where the 2 pieces have joined, so I might want to get my fabric or my pattern maker, and I'm going to just pop it over that little area and put it in, so that again looks nice and seamless. No one can see where I've joined it. Okay, that's now looking much straighter. And then I'm going to get the top nice and neat as well. You want a nice crisp round shape. The neater this top is, the easier it's going to be to paint later. A few things still to do. If it's quite soggy, put it aside and let it dry for half an hour, because the last 2 things you actually need it to be a bit firmer. Right, so now that it's firmed up a little bit, what you need to do are 2 things. 1, write your name, or Dear Granny, have a lovely Christmas, or Sean, age 4, or COVID 2020, just so that we know a little bit about this pot. Why have you made it? Who's made it? When did you make it? So again, you can make that with your pointy stick, or if you have any stamps, you could stamp on that information. The other thing you want to do, you're going to need to make holes for the light. You see there I've made holes. To make holes, you've got your pointy stick, and what you're going to do is you're going to put your fingers on the inside and you're going to push through into there and make a nice hole. So you can see where I've made that hole and I have protected it. So I'm going to try again. What I find is to go in a sort of a zigzag. I'm going 1 up, 1 down, 1 up, 1 down, 1 up, 1 down, and that then gives a nice balance of light. If you do too many holes, it might collapse. If you don't do enough holes, it's not very good for candles. And again, if you make sure that you're on a base, it's quite easy to turn around on the table. Ta-da! Here we go. So we have all the holes, and we can now put it to one side and let it dry. Once it's dry, you can do some painting.
Can you guess what time it is? Because it's joke time.
What do you call Rudolph with tinsel in his ears?
No, Rudolph with tinsel in his ears?
Anything you like. He can't hear you.
I know.